My concern about genetic modification or genetic engineering is that it is a risky technology. I am not someone who says that we should seek to ban it from the face of the earth. I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's even desirable. But what we don't have to do yet, and maybe for a long, long period of time, is to launch it into the nation's food supply. We use genetic engineering for pharmaceuticals. The results are almost universally applauded. Occasionally there are disasters, of course, like thalidomide. Maybe that was not properly tested or we didn't react to it quickly enough. But by and large, there's nothing wrong with the technology as such. There never is. A technology is neutral. It's the uses to which it's put, and it's the way in which it is checked and counter-checked and thrice-checked that really matters. Now, when it comes to food, what it means is injecting or firing or blasting GM DNA into a plant out of a sequence which has evolved over hundreds of millions of years of DNA and genes in that plant. And what nature has done over huge periods of time is to ensure that the biochemistry of the plant is optimally organized for the functions which it has to perform, and it is related as best as possible to the environment. Now, we're interfering with that, and again, I'm not saying in principle that's wrong if you know exactly how to do it and what the consequences are, but we don't. We are firing it blind into this sequence, and almost certainly in many cases will destabilize the plant. Secondly, we do know, we all thought that we had thousands upon tens of thousands of genes in our body. We've actually only got 30,000, 30,000, much less than we thought. And clearly genes operate not one-to-one. Every gene has one function or one trait. They operate collectively, and they're turned on and off by a system which we're gradually beginning to uncover, but we're right at the beginning of our knowledge. Now, to rush ahead with altering a food supply by changing the biochemistry in ways in which we are blind and cannot know the long-term consequences seems to me an incredible folly until we have done the full-scale health and environmental testing to be sure that there are benefits, because at the moment there are no consumer benefits from GM food. Even Monsanto wouldn't claim that. They only claim that there are farmer benefits, namely higher yields and lower use of pesticide. But when you go to Canada, which I did last year, you found that those who were originally gung-ho GM farmers are now strongly opposed because yields actually initially went up, have now gone down. Pesticide use went down, has now gone up. Just the opposite of what we were told. So why are we doing it? And the real reason we're doing it is because the biotech companies will make a financial bonanza out of it if they can get people, farmers, and there are over 1 billion farmers across the world. 1 in 6 of the population is a farmer in the developing countries. And if they have to buy their seed and the pesticides against which the seeds have been genetically modified every year, those companies have cornered the world's food supply, and they will make unimaginable profits out of it, without any regard of what is the public interest, about food security for those countries, about traditional farming, and what will be the long-term consequences if this technology goes wrong, as it probably will in ways that we cannot predict. So that's why I'm very concerned about it, and I think we would be wise to take this more slowly. What has actually happened today is something rather significant. March the 31st, 2004, Bayer, which is one of the 2 big companies, one of the 3 big companies, Monsanto, Bayer, Syngenta, etc. Bayer had got approval for most of the requirements for Chardon LL maize. And when the government announced that it was going to go ahead with GM crops in this country, everyone expected that this crop would be first in, it would be planted possibly this year, almost certainly next year. Bayer have now announced that they're pulling out. They're taking their GM maize out of this country. They're not proposing to proceed. Why? Now, I think almost certainly the reason is because they are being made to carry the financial liability if there is cross-contamination. And almost certainly there will be cross-contamination. There is no insurance company that will insure them. The government has said absolutely right that the taxpayer will not pay if something goes wrong, so they've got to pay themselves. Now, they originally said, of course, that don't worry, there won't be any contamination. We've got separation distances. There won't be a problem, there'll be very little or no cross-contamination. As soon as they are made to bear the costs if it goes wrong, they back off. So there's going to be no GM in this country for several years. And when you look at the rest of the world, the biotech companies like to give the impression, they say there are 16 countries where it's grown. Well, it may be grown in absolutely minuscule proportions. We're one of them in this country because of the field-scale trials. But if you look at global production of GM, it is a very open question whether this is going to proceed. It is not settled. The die is not cast. There are 4 countries that account for 99% of global GM production. The United States has 66%, 2/3. Argentina has 23%, nearly a quarter. Canada has 6%, China has 4%. The whole of the rest of the world has less than 1%. And even in China, and to some extent in Canada, there are beginning to be questions about labelling, about consumer choice, about long-term health risks. And of course, following what's happened in Britain today, the question of cross-contamination, statutory liability, and who pays. So I think this technology, we may already have peaked rather than be just about to see the universalization of it across the world. I think it's a very open question. As the more people get to know about this, as happened in the GM public debate in this country, we started strongly against. More people at the end of it were against, and the more people got to know about it, the less they liked it. So I think genetic modification, okay, maybe in 100 years when we've learned all that is to be learned, and we can pick and choose in a way which is beneficial, but not the massive, crude, unfocused firing of a technology into a species, and of course crossing of the species barrier, which is another thing which nature would never do.
You have come back for me. Oh, I thought you had